Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Gross. I've been playing guitar for 30 years. I've been playing in countless bands, with everything from musicals to wedding bands, corporate bands, um, done a lot of solo gig work as well, duos and, looping and pretty much the whole gamut. I currently work with a leading wedding band here in North Jersey. If you're interested, check them out. They're called CraigScottEntertainment.com. We have like 5 million, that's an exaggeration, but a lot of 5-star reviews and stuff on the Nod. And um, so I work, currently I work in technology during the day and during the week. I do have a degree in music education. I worked in public schools as a music teacher for about 7 years, and also taught, a lot of private lessons over the years, and had, a lot of students that went on to college and everything, and studied music, became music teachers themselves. Very interested in modern guitar technology, as well as equipment, stuff that's coming out on the market, educational ideas, as it applies to guitar, and just kind of how to integrate things together, for kind of the working musician or weekend warrior. Clearly it's probably there's people that are more involved on a daily basis than me, but I figured I'd just put myself out there and see, what happens, and see if some people relate and if I can help people out with some things that I think have helped me. So anyway, with that, leave a comment, like the video if you enjoy this. I'm also going to probably, play a little bit as well and kind of give you a sample of some of the stuff that I'm making on my own too. Anyway, so today I'm going to start off with a little bit of going into my AM4 setup and how I set it up for my gigs. I primarily use the Fractal AM4 for a lot of the wedding band and corporate stuff, because like I'm trying to get out of there as soon as possible. You're not really playing the greatest of music all the times. You get a chance to be somewhat creative. There's here and there's some cool songs. But for the most part, it's kind of you're doing your job. You're just getting in there. You're doing what you're paid to do, and then you're getting out. So I'm not trying to bring I have my deluxe Fender. Some guys are still doing that. I don't know how. Or bringing. Sometimes I bring out like my FM9 or my Helix or something like that, or Tone Master Pro. Like if I'm feeling like I want more options and I'm not getting it. But the AM4 for me has been kind of my secret weapon. It's tiny. All I bring is that with like 2 expression pedals, one's like mini one, and actually I can kind of show you a little bit. see if I can. So yeah, so you can kind of see, I just use this little, I think it's like a Sonic cake, but it's not the greatest thing, but it does its job. Um, but I use that for the drive volume right now. And then I'm using, I don't know why I chose that. It's just because I put everything else in the MIDI designer. And now I also using another one for just like a wah pedal, which is pretty typical. But it's super tiny setup. It fits on like a tiny little pedal board. I throw it in a backpack and I'm good to go for the gig. So anyway, so I wanted to go into this MIDI designer setup that I set up to control. It's basically you play God mode. You know, you have like, there's no iPad control like this. There is, you know, like if you've used the Tone Master Pro, super easy. Like you just pull up the app and it's amazing. That doesn't exist here. So you kind of, this was the next best thing. Like they give you a lot of options as far as MIDI. So I used it to kind of design something that would fit my needs. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit. I think, you know, it might help people that are trying to set up something similar to kind of show you how I did this. So the first thing, you know, I kind of wanted to do. So the first thing I think you'll want to do is to kind of see what's available in the AM4 and as far as control. So if you go into the setup, what I did here is I went to this external and you could see I set up the CC values for the EC, the expression 1, expression 2, 3, and 4. And then basically these become things that I can plug into any preset and control different things. And this initial value of is something that they put in this latest update. It's really nice because before everything would just start out with 100% and I would have to start up MIDI Designer and bring everything down. Now it starts up at like a normal level. So it's something small and I don't know, it's like almost like they knew that I was having this issue. But it's nice to have. So anyway, so I set that up. But yeah, you can go through these and see what's globally available for you to control. So I think I have it tied to, oh yeah, so this was important. So I have this output volume that's tied to it, and that'll come into things, amp block out volume, amp out boost. So these nice, you don't have to like use up, because the shame with this is like unlike the FM9 where they give you a million external controllers, this you have to pick 4 and that's all you get. So it's nice to have these global ones that it doesn't take away from things that you have to put into each preset. But unfortunate part is they don't have it for everything. So, you know, you have what you have. So anyway, but then, you know, if you go through these amps, you know, you'll find like any of these things that I have like an orange is something that I went into and I basically plugged in which one of those external pedals, you know, that I mapped before I want to use and mapped to a certain CC. And I got to remember that CC. That's what I'm going to be plugging into the iPad. So anyway, so now back to the iPad. So something that is important, you know, is kind of like getting an understanding about how this program works, because it's a lot when you first open it. It comes up, it's very confusing. You know, I think it starts up with some weird layout maybe, or maybe it's no layout at all, but essentially, you know, what, you know, maybe you'd want to do is go into this more at the top here. And then if you go to, I think it's config, that's kind of where like most of the options land. And then you could do this like new layout here. I could, you know, load a layout, you know, like I could send people my layout if they're really interested, but it's probably better to just make your own. You know, you can, but yeah, you could do like a new layout. That might be a good way to go. And then, you know, there's some other options here, like there's one big page. If you click on options, there's this one big page. That's a great thing because basically otherwise you'll find that it kind of divides these two screens at the top. I can't really use my mouse on here, but to show you, but you'll see like above where global remote is at the top, like it's got the different tabs. So now if I click to the second one, they change to I got to exit design mode. So they changed together. And but you could have it be individual, so basically it would split this in half, and so you could have one thing on one side and one thing on the other side. For me, I just liked it was annoying. I just wanted to have a bigger space, and then I could just there's infinite amount of pages, so it's like there's no reason to limit yourself. But you can see I set up like the looper controls really similar. So I use this, I bring like a looper, I throw it in my guitar case, a tiny little Nux looper. I use that for the cocktails and for the ceremonies. And then basically I just set up so things don't get confused. If you go up the top here and you go into the design mode, there's two different modes here. There's play mode and design mode. Design mode is basically you design everything, and play mode you can't edit anything, but it's just for when you're there and you're performing. But yeah, so if I go into design mode, you can see like any of these things, like in the channel here, I put channel 2, so that just like I don't, if I use two CECs that are the same, I'm not going to accidentally trigger something that I don't want to trigger. So if you click anywhere here on the open space, and you can kind of go through. I'm not going to go into how to set up the backgrounds and everything. You can really go crazy and customize everything. I'm not going to go into that right now, but you can see there's a couple different things. So if I go into design mode, when I click anywhere, I'll get an option of like, what do I want? I want a button, a knob, a slider, a picker. I'll kind of show you and you have to kind of watch out with this, because these things, like I thought, well, I'll just add 4 at a time and then I'll just program. No, because then it like ties them all together, and then when you move one on one, it moves all the other ones, and I couldn't figure out how to decouple them. Maybe this is by design. It seems like a bad design to me, but so you just have to make sure. I would just add one at a time, and then if you really want to copy something, what's better to do is to click on it, and then I think if you do actions, then you copy, and then you can paste it somewhere, and then you can kind of edit it, and then it doesn't like they don't interfere with each other. I don't know why you would want two things that do the same thing, but maybe there's a reason for it. Anyway, okay, so now going back to the design thing. So basically, some of these things, these are like buttons. The things up here. So I have the presets. I labeled everything so it's easier to figure out. But like where the presets are, I have a preset for American Clean, for British rock, Vox chime. So British rock is like all my Marshalls, and American Clean is like the Fender kind of stuff. The Vox chime is, obviously like Voxy kind of amps and the chiminess, and then modern stuff is like Freeman and, kind of like high gain. I don't really use it during the corporate stuff, but sometimes you get in the mood, you feel like being whimsical with it. But anyway, so this is what, so those are buttons. So I did those for the presets. So when you just go to this MIDI, you set up the, you go to MIDI here, and then you set up so you see it's like off and on as 94. That's one of the CC values that it does here. So then that's the presets have to be program changes, and I think that those are actually there's a chart that to figure out the program change that correlates with each preset. You might have to look on the Fractal website to get that info. But that's what you do with the presets. Those have to be program changes. For things like these MIDI cues, these were done by the external pedals and stuff that I set up. So those so there's a control change, that's the type, and I set the off value to be 0 and the on to be like 127, and then that turns that on and off when I click it. Now I also have, I don't know why it keeps keeping that properties windows up anyway. But then I kind of set up also like some of these, so the FX things here, these were a little complicated. So those are the channel that I chose, whatever the CC value is for that. And then I had to do the amount of ticks, and each ticks basically correlates with a separate value. So these or a MIDI, so it's like 0, 85, 42, 127. I have, basically it just sends a range. So this one is a knob, and that will submit a range between 0 and 127. And so you can kind of just pick, then you can, move it in between those ranges, anywhere in between that. And it correlates with the range on the AM4. So, so this is pretty much my setup. I have the amp block volume mapped to something, just a CC value. The volume pedal is the main output. I have the boost that's set up in the global setup area or whatever. I have the tap tempo. That's also a global setup. These reverbs are within the presets. So if I go to reverb, you'll see my mix is kind of tied to this external 3. The echo mix, which is sometimes, so I'm able to control kind of delay through the reverb, and it's kind of interesting. You could use the external CC value to control the amount of delay you have within the reverb block, which is essentially giving you a way to control the delay. Anyway, so there's a lot of cool things you can do, but I hope this is helpful for some people. For me, it was really great because now I'm able to kind of have pro level control on the gigs, and I don't have to bring anything extra with me.